What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday. Going to have a really good show today. Excited about this topic. It's something that Sam and I have been planning for over a week. But the good thing is we've continued to have some positive conversations and development and news that have pushed this show back several days. So back, forward, I don't know. Some people, maybe that's going to be my shade today because I think we all as a society need to get on the same page about one aspect of scheduling. So that's a new shade. It wasn't going to be my shade, but I'll just create that as my shade and I'll explain more if I've just confused everybody in the first 40 seconds of the show today. So maybe I'll bring that up later. So we've going to talk about quarterback advantages. So Will Levis versus the Titans opposing quarterbacks. The goal of today's show is to find out how many games will the Titans have the quarterback advantage going onto the field this season? So, Sam, you've written an article about this on atozsports.com. I have not read it, which is rare. Normally, I read just about everything that you and Jack write about the Titans, but I have purposefully not read this one. So, I have no idea where you are on all of these different conversations. The Titans have 14 different quarterbacks on their schedule that are healthy at this point. And so we'll figure out where the Titans could have the quarterback advantage and go week by week here on the show today. So we'll do that. Then we'll also throw some shade. I just organically on the fly came up with my shade for today. So Sam, hope you've got some shade locked and loaded for the show at the end. Going to have a good show. Welcome in. Let's get this thing rolling.
Hey, let's go ahead and do it. Like you said, a good conversation today. Conversation I've been looking forward to having for many days now. I think the chat's going to have a lot of fun with this one, firing off their opinions. Going to be a lot of questions, a lot of takes out there, and a lot of good debate, I think, coming our way. So an exciting show for a Tuesday morning here. Before we kick it off, make sure everybody watching shares the show. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit the share button in that bottom right corner. If you're watching on YouTube, take that YouTube link, send it to a friend, send it into a group chat, go share it because sharing is caring, and sharing about A to Z Sports helps out us a ton. Keep growing that A to Z Sports family by sharing the show and liking the show. Not enough likes on the show to kick off the day here today. So Like the show before we get into it. And without further ado, let's kick things off on a Tuesday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for atozsports.com. And we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Where we got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can do that by getting a quote to save money today and get better coverage by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Sam, we are going through all 14 quarterbacks the Titans currently have on their schedule. They play 17 games, but obviously you play your division opponents twice, so that knocks off a few quarterbacks. So 14 different quarterbacks. The goal of this is to find out how many games will the Titans have a quarterback advantage going onto the field. Now, we're assuming health throughout the entire season. The NFL numbers will tell us that the Titans are very likely to play a backup quarterback this season, at least once, probably more than that. And it's also likely that Will Levis misses a game or two this season as well, just because of the nature of the quarterback position. Hello, ladies ask, is that including preseason? No, it is not. So we will not care about the 3 preseason games the Titans will play against who? The Seahawks, the Saints, and who was the first one? The Niners?
Yeah.
Is that right? All right. So,
Yeah,
Sam, you wrote an article about this on atozsports.com last week. So kind of take us through how you approach the exercise, and then we'll dive in to the first group of quarterbacks that we'll compare Will Levis to.
Yeah, so essentially, the way that this was sort of founded and the way that I approached it was asking myself the question, quarterback is the most important position in sports. And going into every NFL game, you feel like your team has a chance to win if you have the better quarterback, if you have the advantage at quarterback. That can be because your guy's amazing. That can be because the other guy's not so great, but you want to have the advantage at quarterback. And so, with kind of where the Titans currently are with Will Levis and looking ahead at the 2024 schedule, I wanted to ask the question, in this game, would I rather have Will Levis or blank? And kind of filling in that blank with the various quarterbacks on the Titans schedule to figure out where they do have an advantage under center. And I think there's a lot of interesting, debates to be had. I think there's some probably controversial ones to go back and forth with. And I just think it's a fun assessment to figure out like where the Titans are compared to the rest of the NFL at the quarterback position right now. And this kind of illustrates it.
It definitely does. And I guess the easiest thing to do is just to dive right into it, because I think one of these interesting debates will be week one, because I see Pistol Ramsey saying week one, he says we, as in the Titans, have an advantage with the target emoji. So I think that's interesting. So we'll go ahead and start, Sam, because, and Vanessa says, it depends on the nail color that day of who will have the advantage on the quarterback spot between the Bears and the Titans. So we've got graphics. We've grouped these because making 14 graphics would have taken forever. So we made 4 graphics, and we're going to go
chronological here.
Yeah, we're going chronologically through the season. We're starting in week one. We'll go all the way through the quarterbacks the Titans play. So the first grouping of quarterbacks will focus on the first 4 weeks. But right now, Will Levis versus Caleb Williams. How we're going to structure these things is we're just going to ask you, who would you rather have? It's simple as that. Who would you rather have in week one of this NFL season? Is it Will Levis or is it Caleb Williams of the Bears? So this is how the game's going to be played. I think it's going to be fun to see, and I'll track how many games that I think Levis has the advantage of. I might have to do a YouTube poll for all of them so we could get a good percentage base to see who can win during this. But who would you rather have, Levis or Caleb Williams? The caveat to this one, it's week one. This is not week 8, not week 12. It's week one. So, Sam, I'll send you to the chat to get us started this season.
Yep. Danny says Levis. Carpet King says Levis. Guy says Will Levis. Curtis says Caleb Williams is easily. Vanessa says Williams at home. We got right now Levis from Scott. Levis. Mayo Man. Levis. Everybody coming in wanting Will Levis. Edward says Will Levis, no question. Will Levis. We got Caleb from Jay. We've got a lot of Will Levis coming in here. Yeah, this is going to, Levis. Caleb Williams being a rookie. You got to go Levis, says our Hoshi. So, chat, overwhelmingly, week one would prefer Will Levis over Caleb Williams. Austin, thoughts?
I think because it is week one, I do agree with this one. And look, we're not talking about for the season. I think it is very likely that Caleb Williams throws for more yards, throws for more touchdowns, and maybe statistically has a better season than the Titans. And look, the Bears could make the playoffs because of all the things that they've done by changing their roster, flipping it around, having a quarterback who can throw, and to go along with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore with their weapons, improving the defense along the way and improving the O-line. So I think the Bears will – I think if you're asking me who will have more wins at the end of the season, I think the Bears are probably going to win that. But for week one in particular, I think this is such a big game for the Titans. It's also a no-pressure game for the Titans because all the eyes are on Caleb Williams. And so I think in a similar way that Levis was able to go out there and play free against the Falcons, I think he can do that against the Bears in Chicago week one. So I think the Tennessee Titans have the quarterback advantage in week one against Caleb Williams. So that's my answer. Chicago native Sam, who covers the Titans, You've got an interesting perspective on this, as we all know. So I'm curious if you're going to stick with all the opinions you had in your article from last week, or if you're going to maybe adjust some things as we talk this through.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point is pretty much how I feel as well. Like, I think the Bears are going to win more games. I think Caleb Williams is a much better player. And if you had me to bet which one I want on my team, it's not a question. I want Caleb Williams, and I'm running to grab Caleb Williams over Will Levis. But in an NFL debut, the nerves, the speed of the game, not sure how much Caleb Williams is going to see in the preseason. I'd expect him to get out there some, but I mean, it's different in the regular season to the preseason even. I'd rather just take Will Levis and the experience that he has in that game than a rookie quarterback making their first career start. And so I will take the advantage going to Will Levis in this game.
I think you've maybe surprised some people because a lot of people are expecting you to go with Caleb Williams. I see, Brian says, oh my gosh, Sam, this week is bad. Like maybe are you having a bad week with your takes?
Brian's having himself a bad year because Brian has been having a tough year for the last year. Like he commented earlier, and I highlighted, why the hell would you bet, Austin, the Bears to have more wins than the Titans? I would like to remind everybody, they had more wins last year. The Bears won more games. They won 7 games last year. They were a game from like making the playoffs pretty much.
And they had the 9th pick, right? It wasn't like the Bears did not earn the first pick. That would be the Carolina Panthers. So the Bears are the 9th pick, the Titans are the 7th. So I also think that 2 teams in the NFL that have maybe flipped their situations the most, like the biggest movement from where their roster was at the end of last year to week 1. I think the Bears and the Titans have had 2 of the better off seasons when it comes to changing their expectation and moving the bar the most.
Yeah,
right?
I would say, they had 2 of the busiest off seasons. And like Houston had a busy off season as well, but Houston, it didn't change the expectation, right? Houston was already like, hey, let's go win a division, to feeling more confident they'd win the division. Carolina had a busy offseason, but I don't think it changed the standard or the bar, where I think, the Titans and Bears are both in that spot of 2 teams that were busy, and it changes the expectation for like what things are going to do in how things can happen. So.
All right, so we've gone through Caleb Williams in week 1. We both picked the Titans have a quarterback advantage in week 1 against Caleb Williams. The chat agrees there. So 1-0 for the Titans in this conversation. We'll get to the week 2, week 3, week 4 quarterback comparisons here in a second. But first, going to tell you guys all about the Bone and Joint Institute. Hey, look at here. The Bone and Joint Institute, rocking the t-shirt. This was my present for graduating my physical therapy last month. The Bone and Joint Institute is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. That's where you should turn for all of your injury needs. They have all the resources and the experts in Franklin at their main campus, right off of I-65 and Highway 96. They've also got clinics and physical therapy centers around Williamson County, and they've grown so much over the last few years. And we love being a part of the Bone and Joint Institute family with our partnership, because they truly have helped me out in the 3.5 years that the Bone and Joint Institute and A to Z have been working together. I've gone through 2 injuries, plantar fasciitis and some tendonitis in my left knee. It was my left foot, now my left knee. So clearly there's a pattern there. But the Bone and Joint Institute has been able to help me through both of those injuries, avoid any costly procedures, get through it, and educate me on home care as well to make sure those injuries don't crop up. They can do the same thing for you. Don't let it linger. If you have something that's ailing you today, call them or go online at boneandjointtn.org.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Whatever that first bet wager amount is, it can go back into your account in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet misses when you sign up and use that code ATOZ Sports with the king of sportsbooks and BetMGM.com.
Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and other requirements. First online room money wager only. Rewards issued a double bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And for problem games, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So, Sam, we are going through the Titans schedule. You wrote an article last week at A2ZSports.com that is Will Levis versus the quarterbacks the Titans play, the opposing quarterbacks. We went through Caleb Williams. We both said the Titans have the quarterback advantage. So now let's go to week 2. Also an interesting one because Aaron Rodgers only played 4 snaps last year before rupturing his Achilles. He is north of 40, now like established well over 40 at this point, coming off of the Achilles injury in week 2 with Aaron Rodgers. Who would you rather have in week 2? Will Levis or Aaron Rodgers? I think this one is also going to be interesting because of the injury a year ago and it being so early in the season.
Yeah. Do you want me to go while the chat goes here?
I guess the chat's probably a little slower to respond here. So maybe if you want to set the table on how you walk through this for your article with Aaron Rodgers, I'd love to see that because I have not read that post still.
This one was simple to me. That I really didn't think very hard about this one. This is an advantage to Aaron Rodgers. Advantage Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't care that he's 40. I don't care about the Achilles. There isn't enough body of evidence for me that he's fallen off of his game to make me feel like he's not still going to be a very good quarterback. And some of the things that Aaron Rodgers does, healthy or not, is take care of the football. That's something Will Levis absolutely does not do. And so when I look at, Will Levis versus Aaron Rodgers on paper, week 2, week 11, week 15, the advantage goes to the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback, and they have the advantage at that position.
Okay. So Levis or Rodgers, I will scroll back to the top of the chat. Titans Kyle says, give it to Rodgers. Ira Hoshi says Rodgers. Carpet King says Levis. Scott just calling it a push. We're getting Rodgers coming in for sure. There from a couple others. Willie says Levis. Brandon says Rodgers, as does Tighten Up Guy and Major Keys. Curtis says off of experience Rodgers, as does Cameron. There are some Levises, right? In here. So it's not completely off, but Carpet King says Rodgers tore his foot on one play, right?
His Troy foot, his
Achilles. Yeah. I was like, I didn't put it together, but it took me a second. But yeah, look, when's the last time we've seen Aaron Rodgers play at a high level?
I mean,
because his last year in Green Bay, they also were kept out of the playoffs by the upstart Detroit Lions 2 seasons ago.
But his last year in Green Bay, and this is where I want to let people know, like, there's levels to this. His last year in Green Bay, he was not Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, he won an MVP award at 37 years old and 38 years old, back-to-back seasons. Then he had his last year in Green Bay where they missed the playoffs, and he didn't have his great numbers. And still, that one season in Green Bay is better than anything we've seen from Will Levis in his career. Like, there are still serious levels to this, where Will Levis's production this season was what Aaron Rodgers did his last year in Green Bay. Titans fans would be over the moon. So there's no body of work or evidence to me that Aaron Rodgers can still, like, not still be Aaron Rodgers that we know. And the more that the game has developed over the years, the more that we've seen really productive players into their old age, the more I think we'll continue to see it, where I do believe, I believe Aaron Rodgers is still going to be really solid. And Pistol Ramsey makes a great point. Like, Rodgers wanted out. He didn't have a ton of help. It was an ugly situation that last year in Green Bay that I think affected the team performance. But, I still think he's got pretty solid play in him.
So I'm looking at his career, right? His last year in Green Bay in 2022, he had the lowest quarterback rating of his entire career once becoming a full-time starter.
Yeah.
And he also had the second most interceptions in his career since becoming a full-time starter, only trailing his first year as a full-time starter, which was also the third lowest quarterback.
How many
rating.
interceptions?
So last year or that first year?
That last year,
last year in Green Bay, 12 interceptions to 26 touchdowns, 3,700 yards.
And let me just say, me personally would be shocked if Will Levis didn't throw 12 interceptions this year.
Oh, I think
that's my point.
I think an Aaron Rodgers 2022 stat line for Will Levis would have everybody that's a Titans fan doing cartwheels. 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks. That fits a lot of what my Will Levis parlay would be for him to continue to be the guy moving forward. But I think week 2, so it's roughly one full calendar year since tearing his Achilles, not necessarily since the surgery itself, at the age of 40, whatever he is. I think I'm going to go with Will Levis here because it's simply because of the injury. It's a old quarterback who already had the poorest season that he has had in his illustrious Hall of Fame career. The last time we saw him, which is now 2 years ago. And then he has the Achilles injury. It's 1 year. The Jets also play on Monday night, the week before to start the season on the West Coast against the Niners, then have to travel back to New Jersey, then have to come down to Nashville. That's a lot of travel on a 40-plus-year-old guy who's nursing an Achilles that went out there and played a game for the first time in over a year. So I think it's the Achilles unknown and what I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do to make sure that he manages that Achilles from the first game back to the second game back with a lot of hours in the sky on a plane.
Okay.
On a short week. There's a lot of
Aaron Rodgers. The short week. Aaron Rodgers knows how to deal with a short
physically.
week.
Physically on a short week. After the first game back from the Achilles, flying from New York to San Fran, then San Fran to New York, then New York down to Nashville. That's a lot of air miles on an Achilles for an old guy. Like, look, I'm 34. When I fly in a plane for an hour and a half, I stand up a little stiff. Aaron Rodgers is going to be, hopefully he's getting it for his sake. He would be getting physical therapy while sitting in that plane.
All right. Well, hey, let's move on to his replacement because the very next week, the Titans get to see the Green Bay Packers.
That's right.
So our next question here, who'd you rather in week 3 of the 2024 NFL season, Will Levis or Jordan Love? It is Will Levis or Jordan Love in week 3 for the Titans. So I do find it kind of interesting. You get Bears, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love in like this weird little like NFC North triangle. Even though Aaron Rodgers is in the AFC East, it's still, feels like an NFC North quarterback. Chat coming in here. Guy says it's Love. So does Willie. So does Titans Kyle and Darren and Mario and Jay. DR David says it is Levis. I've got Love by Curtis. Ken says by a landslide. Dozier says it's Love. Eric says he's Love. He's proved himself. Hoshi says Levis. Love from Jason and Ashley and Sports Fan and Dylan. Cameron says Levis. Love from Major Key. Some love from Darius. Love from Rashid. Love from Tighten Up. So pretty overwhelming Jordan Love one here. Got a couple Will Levises from Kaz and Daniel and people, but and Vanessa says I think Levis if he has good games. But going into the season, sounds like most people are saying advantage Green Bay. Austin, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with this one. I think the chat's right. I think Jordan Love is the better quarterback at this point, was one of the hottest quarterbacks on the youngest team in the NFL going into the playoffs last year, stealing that playoff game in Dallas and making Cowboys fans want the head of Mike McCarthy, even though they didn't get it. I think Jordan Love right now is who I'd rather have over Will Levis in week 3 of the season, because the first 2 weeks we had variables, right? Caleb Williams' first ever game. And for me, Aaron Rodgers and all of the injury situations with the Achilles and the travel with week 1 being in San Francisco on Monday night. So I think this is pretty simple for me. It is Jordan Love. I think the Packers have an opportunity to really be one of the better teams in the NFC And, we'll talk about the Lions here in a little bit, but that's going to be an interesting battle to watch in the NFC North.
Yeah. Jordan Love started the year, I think a little bit rough, had numbers with a lot of help, didn't really do anything flashy. And then as the back end of the year, as he got more comfortable on his first year as a full-time starter, really started to make that jump and played like a top 10 quarterback down the stretch. And not only has a great year that gets Green Bay into the playoffs, wins them a playoff game on a game that he threw 3 touchdowns, completed 76% of his passes. I think that did a lot to validate the opinions of Jordan Love around the NFL. And whether he's in your top 10 or just outside your top 10 or wherever he ranks in the league right now, he's got the advantage over Will Levis. So I'm in agreement.
All right, so pretty simple there. Jordan Love over Levis. So let's get to the 4th game on the Titans schedule. Levis or Tua? Who would you rather have in week 4 of this NFL season? Will Levis or Tua Tagovailoa in the high-powered offense with the Dolphins? Talking quarterbacks here. Curious to see where the chat takes this one, because Tua gets a negative read nationally, even though he led the NFL in passing yards last season. I see Curtis comes in with neither. He would take neither, so maybe that means a push. But Tua or Levis, I'm seeing what I expected to see. And it's a lot of people saying Will Levis over Tua.
Yeah. Which is not it's pretty split here, but it's definitely a larger contingent of people who are taking Will Levis over Tua Tagovailoa. And listen, I do understand it for some reasons. I am what the kids on the internet, and here come all the tweets, Sam, you're a kid. People on the internet would say as a Tua hater. In the aspect of I doubt him a lot more than most people. I do believe he is overrated. I think a lot of his success, like leading the league in passing yards and having 4,700 passing yards, can be credited to Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill and
Jalen Waddle,
the absolute unit of a Dolphins offense that has been built around him. But my issue with Tua is when I hear him in MVP conversation. When he's thrown around as an MVP or a top 5 or sometimes even a top 10 quarterback, I don't think that's where he is. He's probably somewhere closer to the back end of the top 10 than he is the top 5. And I want to make that differentiation. But, he's at the very least, better than average, with the things that he has done. And I don't think we know that about Will Levis yet. And so I will say, Tua definitely has the advantage in this game.
Yeah, and I agree as well, because when Tua is getting hated on, it's in a different stratosphere of conversation. Like
exactly.
I don't think Tua is a top 10 quarterback. I don't. I think if you could take a lot of quarterbacks and plug them into Tua's situation, and they would be much better than they would be in other situations. If you remove Tua and pluck him out of his Mike McDaniel situation and plop him into something else, is he going to lead the NFL in passing yards?
Absolutely not.
No. And so, I don't think Tua would be very good in the Buffalo Bills offense. Not because of the cold weather they play up there, but I'm talking about because of how much that's reliant on Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen would absolutely lead the league in passing yards if he had Mike McDaniel.
That'd be scary if he had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel. That's scary hours.
Yes. Right. So I think there's no way in hell that Tua is an MVP candidate or should be. I think that would if Tua is in the race for an MVP candidate, then I think the coach of the year should go to Mike McDaniel. I think that's the next step that you should take there. So we both agree. So all right, we're in the bye week.
So then say but there, because you went on about all the stuff about Tua, but the differentiator is the fact that it's a different level of debate here, where let's say, hey, Tua is the number 15 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think we know for sure that Will Levis is better than 15th at this point. We just haven't seen enough.
For sure.
And so that's where we have to, make that advantage Miami.
Even though the Titans and Will Levis were able to beat Tua last year.
Hey, and by the time that we're in, week 4 here, this could be a different conversation. You know, how Will Levis starts 2024 changes this conversation as you get later into some of these weeks. But if you're making the judgment right now based on what we've seen, I think that's the only fair judgment to make.
Yeah, without a doubt. I agree completely. As I go to my Twitter feed and I see a picture of Tua, who has lost a bunch of weight, looks very different compared to how he's looked so far in his career. So we'll kind of see what that looks like. But we've got to the bye week. I think overall right now, we can say the Titans have one game in the first 4 weeks where they have the quarterback advantage, and that's against Caleb Williams. Even though I picked Levis over Rodgers, that was not the popular vote from Sam in the chat. So I lose that one.
All 4 of these are interesting. Because I think you can make an argument for both sides in really all of these except Jordan Love. But, you know, it's interesting to me, at least.
Yes. All right. So now let's get to the second iteration of this. After the bye week, we go through and we start with one that I think the Titans would also have an advantage with, and that is in the division when the Titans host the Colts and Anthony Richardson's first trip to Nissan Stadium because he was injured at the time last year. So who would you rather have? This is now week 6 in the NFL season. Who would you rather have, Will Levis or Anthony Richardson? Sam, I'll let you start and keep an eye on the chat as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to start and say that this is a fun one because I don't know how much you feel about this, Austin. I feel like the vibe in Nashville about Will Levis is very similar to the vibe in Indianapolis about Anthony Richardson. And by that, I mean, I think nationally, both are not revered very, like not thought of very highly yet. And yet locally, it seems to be a very passionate fan base that believes that this person is like a franchise quarterback. And we like kind of see that. Like I am surprised when I listen to, look at content from Colts fans talking about Anthony Richardson and how they feel like he is here. Like a Colts fan would tell you Anthony Richardson's here and Will Levis is all the way down here. Titans fans are going to tell you the exact opposite.
Yes.
That Will Levis is way better than Anthony Richardson, which is why I find this one funny.
Yeah.
And it's not a shocker that chat is, I'll just flash a couple of them here. It's a lot of Levis. Come on, Levis. There is one Anthony Richardson from Chris Jump that I can see in, not many others. I will give the advantage here to Will Levis because I don't believe Anthony Richardson showed me enough. While he showed flashes, did not show me enough as a passer in his rookie season for me to feel confident that he will be a, consistently better than Will Levis type of quarterback, that he can play like a consistent top 10 quarterback. There are some real unique athletic abilities and tools with Anthony Richardson, but you took him out of that offense and Gardner Minshew was more productive and stronger in that 2023 offense than Anthony Richardson. They have one of the best offensive lines in the sport. Like the situation that Anthony Richardson was very different from the one Will Levis was in, and still kind of failed to make those big time throws and have that consistent accuracy. I mean, there were some really ugly games in like the first 4 games as a starter of his career.
Yeah.
I think he's still a little bit raw. The ceiling is ridiculously high, but I feel more confident about what Will Levis is than what Anthony Richardson is right now.
Yeah, so Richardson, the Colts were 2-2 in Richardson's 4 starts a year ago, and the 2 games they won, Gardner Minshew came in and helped them win that game, and Richardson got knocked out. And then in the 2 games they lost, Richardson played the whole game. And so it's that there's an interesting aspect of that. And so for me, as a Tennessee Vols alum, I have seen Florida quarterbacks break my heart, usually in the month of September. Hopefully it's not in the month of October this upcoming season. But Anthony Richardson is that perfect quarterback that is unconventional, that doesn't do everything by the book, but he's just so physically gifted that you might play 3rd and 8 perfectly and then he makes a play that beats that great defense and scrambles and gets the first down, and then they score a touchdown on that drive, and it just breaks your soul. And when the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, I was like, well, a lot of Vol fans who are also Titans fans probably have that same fear with Richardson being in Indianapolis. And so while I would also take Levis over Richardson, Richardson can still absolutely beat you because of the kind of what's the right term for this? The video game like bailout mode that he can go in and just break your soul by you have the perfect defensive rep for the first 4 seconds of the snap, and then something breaks down. All it takes is one guy losing his rush contain or one guy in the secondary just kind of falling asleep, and Richardson, boom, can beat you with his arm or his legs. And so
it will be, it's the fact to me that like I think Will Levis this year is going to be way more steady than Anthony Richardson is. I don't know if it's always going to be like, hey, consistent improvement from Will Levis. I don't know if we're going to be like all the way up here or all the way right here. Anthony Richardson, I see doing a little bit of this. There will be days that the Colts score 35 points and Anthony Richardson has 5 total touchdowns, like 3 passing, 2 on the ground. And you look and you're like, hey, Colts have a guy. And then there will be days that he goes 7 of 16 passing with 91 yards and they lose by 3 scores. And you're like, this is a problem. We need to throw Joe Flacco in here. I just think that he still has a lot of that volatility to him. And that's what I'm expecting to see in 2024. But a quarterback with that much volatility to me cannot have the advantage over Will Levis in a game against them. And so, I mean, hey, similar to Will Levis, right? If Anthony Richardson plays the first 4 or 5 games this season and is consistently like, mini Lamar Jackson, or I guess big Lamar Jackson physically, you're going to say, uh-oh, right? And I'm not looking forward to seeing that guy in Indianapolis. But right now, I think I'd take Levis.
Yeah, I take Levis as well. There's also the shoulder injury that he's still recovering from. So we both take Levis. The chats took Levis over that one. So that's the second game that the consensus 3-headed answer of this show has Levis over the Titans opponent. Now we get to a couple game stretch here at Buffalo and at Detroit. Josh Allen, Jared Goff. I think this is pretty simple.
We're 0-2 on both of these.
Yeah, both of these quarterbacks, you would absolutely take both of them over Will Levis. There is zero doubt. If anybody in the chat says that they would take Will Levis over Jared Goff, then you are wrong. Then you are just being too much of a homer. Jared Goff is way better of a quarterback right now than
I need all the chat to just say Allen Goff, or easy losses, as Curtis says. Easy losses here. This is one that you just have to take the opponent and tip your cap to 2 guys who are at the top of the league.
Yep. I mean, you can argue if Jared Goff's the top 10 guy or not, but Josh Allen is arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL or the third. And Will Levis has several things he has to prove before doing that. And then I think as easy as that was, it was also be easy enough for the majority of us to pick Will Levis over Drake May. No?
I think that was super easy. Caleb Williams to me is like the rookie just real time out because chat, you're not going to get me triggered. I see all the comments that are saying Will Levis over Josh Allen. There's a couple of them. It's not going to work. I'm not taking the rage bait. Okay. We're moving on. No, Drake May for me, I just feel, the situation matters for a rookie quarterback to me. Caleb Williams, I feel really strong that he'll have a very good year because he's a really talented, good quarterback walking into a very good situation in Chicago where it's going to make his life easy with the weapons and the protection that he should have. It's going to be an easy transition for a rookie. And even if you like Drake May and you like the talent of Drake May, I think 2024 is going to be a struggle for him because New England is a really bad roster. And I do think that has a tendency to really spiral on some of these rookie QBs. So for me, bad offensive line, there's not many weapons in New England. I think Drake May starts off a little bit tough and, maybe he develops into a good, very good franchise quarterback 2-3 years from now. But I don't know if he's going to have too many unbelievable games this season. And I do question whether or not he's able to take a team and throw him on his back right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the Titans have a clear advantage against New England at quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's pretty also to kind of argue for this. The Titans are currently favored in one game on the schedule this year, and it's against the Patriots. It's in Nissan Stadium against Drake May if he's the quarterback there, or maybe they're rolling with one of the veterans that they have on the roster. Jacoby Brissett would be that option, I would guess. And I don't know. I mean, would you take Will Levis over Jacoby Brissett at this point?
I would.
Yeah, I would too. I think there's just more high ceiling of a performance. Brissett might not have as low as a floor as Levis could because of experience, but Jacoby Brissett's not throwing 4 touchdowns in a game. Jacoby Brissett's not making some of these insane throws down the field that we saw Levis do last year. So I think that's where Levis over whoever the Patriots want to roll out there as a quarterback. So, yeah. All right, Sam, let's keep rolling on. So far, we're a little over halfway through these quarterbacks. Will Levis versus the Titans opposing
quarterback. There's some easy ones coming up, though.
Yeah, we should have some easy ones. Right now, we've got 3 games where I guess if you want to count Anthony Richardson twice, that's 4 games, 3 quarterbacks that the Titans have an advantage over. We'll get to the rest of the Titans opposing quarterbacks and more of your thoughts on this. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans is where you should turn for all of your health coverage needs. They've been helping out A to Z employees for the last 3+ years, and they can help you out as well. If you're trying to save money on your health coverage, sounds like a great idea for everybody, right? If you live in Tennessee, Farm Bureau Health Plans can help you do that. You can get a quote today by going to use our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. And I've been mentioning the last few days, if you're seriously interested in changing your health plan to get better coverage for a lower rate, DM me on Twitter. I'll check them every day, and I'll give you the direct email contact to reach out to Farm Bureau Health Plans. So you don't have to go the long way. You can go the shortcut via me with what we've got there with our connection with Farm Bureau Health Plans. So check them out online. Our link is fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Got the Major League Baseball All-Star Game tonight. So, sprinkle a little bit of money on the MLB All-Star Game and do it with BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports, the king of sportsbooks, when you sign up.
All right, so just to reset here for a second, we've also got a super chat from King VC. Lock in and like the show. We need more likes on the show as we get closer and closer to training camp. We'll actually get some new stuff to talk about instead of just having to go through lists and lists and lists for the summer. So we're almost there, guys. So lock in and like that show from King VC on Facebook and on YouTube. So we're going through the Titans opposing quarterbacks on the schedule this year. Sam, you wrote an article last week on A2ZSports.com about this. Where does Will Levis and the Titans have the advantage? We've gone through the early part of the schedule. Just to recap here, we have the Titans and Will Levis an advantage over Caleb Williams, but not a consensus over Rodgers, Loves, over Tua. We had the consensus over Richardson in Indianapolis and Drake May in New England, but obviously not with Josh Allen and Jared Goff. Now to the next trio of quarterbacks, as we have 6 quarterbacks left in this exercise. Will Levis or Justin Herbert of the LA Chargers? Another guy that gets a lot of hype from the national media and all of the NFL across the country, but doesn't really have much to show from it except for a bunch of yards thrown and losing in the playoffs with his former head coach, Brandon Staley, and allowing Jacksonville to win that game in a comeback fashion. So Levis or Justin Herbert, who would you rather have here?
Yeah, it's Justin Herbert. Again, levels to it. Whether he's in your top 5 or not in your top 5, he's probably got to be in your top 10 when you're ranking NFL quarterbacks. Like, you have to have Justin Herbert somewhere in that top 10. Levis isn't there yet. This is a clear advantage. If Levis became Justin Herbert, he would, without a doubt, be the greatest quarterback in the franchise's history. Titans fans would, without a doubt, be over the moon at his performance and production. I think Justin Herbert's lack of, something to show for it, like you said, has a lot to do with his situation and the roster in LA. But, maybe, Harbaugh is able to and start to turn things around. And Pistol Ramsey says, no weapons, though. But I do want to remind everybody, weapons don't matter in this exercise.
Right.
Like, my reasoning for like Drake May, bad roster, is because I think Drake May's bad roster is going to affect him as a quarterback and his development in year one and his ability to perform. But if I took Justin Herbert and inserted him into this Titans offense, I think they have a much, much better chance of being good than Will Levis in this Titans offense.
I mean, if the Titans had Justin Herbert with this exact roster, I mean, you're talking about winning the division being the expectation.
Correct.
And being very disappointed if that didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's why.
And you're talking about
Justin Herbert's the answer here.
I mean, if the Titans had Justin Herbert throwing to D-Hop and Calvin Ridley with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, I mean, is AFC Championship game the expectation? Like, you're thinking you can contend with the Chiefs and the Bills.
What if
Justin Herbert was in this?
I think you have to, right? I mean, like, you're like, hey, if this offensive line holds up, you're a Super Bowl contender with Justin Herbert in this offense. And so that's your answer right there. The fact that our expectations for the Titans are like, we'll see how improved they are. And, the over-under is what, 5.5 wins on Vegas right now? And versus like Justin Herbert's in this offense. And you're like, yeah, they're going to be one of the better teams in the AFC.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty easy there. Justin Herbert over Will Levis. We continue with this one. I think this is where we'll get a little interesting. Another rookie with J.J. McCarthy in the Vikings deeper into the season in Nashville against the Titans. Who would you rather have mid-season, Will Levis or J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah, this one was easier than all of the other rookie quarterbacks to me. I feel like we still have one to go, but J.J. McCarthy is the least NFL ready of all of the rookie quarterbacks in my eyes. I think, he was asked to do the least at Michigan. We haven't seen what he's got as far as like being a consistent passer and not being able to rely on 2,000 yards in a season from Blake Corum and one of the best defenses in college football to carry him to all of these wins. He had a great head coach and, I'm not out on J.J. McCarthy necessarily as a prospect. I have a lot of doubts about him. I think he was overdrafted by Minnesota, all of that stuff. And yet I think it's pretty objective to think that right now he's far from NFL ready and Will Levis is a better player than J.J. McCarthy right now. No question in my mind.
I think, and we've had this conversation before, if Will Levis was in this quarterback class, then Will Levis would go over J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, it's hard to say because, and I don't want to use that as like a baseline because I do feel like, this quarterback class was more revered than Will Levis's quarterback class. Just higher upside on a lot of the guys in this class. But having seen the flashes of Will Levis, if you re-entered Will Levis into the NFL draft after what we saw from him as a rookie and put him into this year's draft class, he definitely goes before J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, but I think it's the fact that Levis had a higher draft ceiling than McCarthy in the year that he came out. I think why Levis dropped to the 33rd overall pick to the Titans is because there were less quarterback needy teams in the first round of the draft a year ago. Because if the Titans didn't, I think it was pretty obvious. If the Titans didn't take Levis at 11, there was a long gap between quarterback needing teams.
Yeah.
And the fact that you had 1, 2, 3, and then 8, and then 10, 11, 12 for quarterbacks to go. There are 12 teams having quarterbacks in the top 12 right there. 6 of those teams picking them. They didn't have that many needy teams in Levis's draft, which is why he slid. So,
sure.
But again, I think the easy answer is definitely Levis over McCarthy. So that makes 4 quarterbacks that we have as a whole?
So. I believe so.
So because it's Caleb Williams, it is Drake May, it's Anthony Richardson and J.J. McCarthy right there. So the last quarterback on this graphic is in Levis's class, and that is C.J. Stroud, the Texans. I think this is a pretty easy one for me. It's Stroud over Levis.
For everybody, this is an easy one.
It should be for everybody, but I'm going to guess that the chat is going to have Levis in there more because of the division rival aspect.
No, I don't know. I think, Titans fans are able to look at CJ Stroud and know, damn it, as what was Ira Hosh says, Stroud, damn it. Yeah. CJ Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Certainly, I would say for sure the best young quarterback in the league. If you're looking at guys in like year 1, year 2, year 3, CJ Stroud is probably the guy that you're looking at as having the highest ceiling and being the most promising. So I've got him over Levis easily.
Would you take Jordan Love over Stroud?
No.
Okay.
I think CJ Stroud's a top 5 quarterback. But CJ Stroud was my number one quarterback. I was a CJ Stroud guy coming when he came out. He came to the Texans. He's hit. I think CJ Stroud is very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to go top 5 yet. I mean, he could be at the end of the season. I just think it's probably a little too early.
I mean, if he does it again,
I just think it's too early to put him as a top 5 quarterback. I think it's fair to say he could get his way there at the end of his second year. But I want to see a little bit more. So, all right, the last trio of quarterbacks that we have for Will Levis versus the Titans opposing quarterbacks on the schedule is the trio of Daniels, Lawrence, and Burrow. Daniels, Lawrence, and Burrow. So for me, I am taking Will Levis over every rookie. I just think that's kind of my thought. And if Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix were also on this list, then I'd take Levis over them too. So the fact that the Titans do get several games this year with rookie quarterbacks that were drafted, I think that's a good thing. So I have Levis over Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels. So that's a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels is similar to the Drake May spot for me. I think there's a lot of real upside with him. I'm worried about the size. He was the only guy that I stood next to at the combine and was like, wow, small dude, thin dude. Williams, McCarthy, all these guys, they're built very big, stocky, strong, like quarterbacks. And that is a concern for me is can Jaden Daniels stay healthy, taking some hits? The offensive line play in Washington is not stellar. And, they're going over a lot of, changes right now through ownership and everything else where I don't know how stable the situation is around him. I don't love the fact that Dan Quinn is his head coach, as a rookie quarterback. So, I don't know. We'll see. I would take Will Levis though, because if you're going to take him over Williams and you're going to take him over Drake May and on the premise of, hey, this is a rookie who I don't know anything about yet, the situation and lack of experience for Jaden Daniels are certainly reasons to take Will Levis for me.
Yep, same here. So pretty simple one. It looks like the chat agrees on Levis over Daniels. Now, another in division, Levis over Trevor Lawrence. I'm curious to see where the chat's at with this one. Because
I think we know where the chat's going to be at.
The chat's going to be on Will Levis here.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do that yet because Trevor Lawrence, and we talked about this when he got his contract. I think it's crazy that the Jags gave up that level of money. I don't think they had to, but they did. And all Trevor Lawrence did was have a solid second year where they went to the playoffs and won a game because Brandon Staley, the Chargers, and Justin Herbert gave it away because Trevor Lawrence did everything he could to give that game to the Chargers. And then last year was not quality from Trevor Lawrence. Got some injuries that he was dealing with, but he was inaccurate. They fumbled the opportunity to win the division back to back. And so, but I still think Trevor Lawrence over Levis, but this could be a changing of the guard. I think there is an opportunity by season's end for Levis to be equal with Lawrence.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. And I have to give it to Trevor Lawrence too. I know Titans fans don't want to necessarily hear that, but as of right now, I just don't think you can make the argument for Levis to be an advantage for the Titans over Trevor Lawrence. They honestly struggle with many of the same things. They both show flashes of brilliance. They both make very silly, easy mistakes. Lawrence last year ranked in the top 5 in the NFL in big-time throws. He had 33 big-time throws. He was also top 5 in turnover-worthy plays with 24. Will Levis was number one in the NFL in turnover worthy plays in 2023, and at least in the rate of passes, but was also towards the top of the league in, special throw, big time throw rate. Mm-hmm. So they're very similar in that way. Lawrence also led the league in big time throws on passes of 20 plus yards downfield by a wide margin. You're talking about a guy who made a lot of special throws deep down the field, really explosive passes. And so, yeah, he took a step back. I think the injuries had something to do with that a little bit last year. But I have to give Lawrence the edge, because if we're weighing the pros and cons of Lawrence and they're similar to the pros and cons of Levis, we've seen Lawrence do it for longer. This is now 2 seasons that we have seen Trevor Lawrence be at least an above average starter to average starter in the NFL. We cannot say that about Levis yet. So I think we have an opportunity here to see what Trevor Lawrence is in this first year of this new contract, to see what Will Levis is, in year 2. And he could go up, he could stay the same, he could regress a little bit. We don't know fully yet. And so he could even himself or even elevate his game a little bit beyond Trevor Lawrence in 2024. I'm not there yet. Advantage to Trevor.
Kadaro Bobo says, Sam, let's face it, you don't like Will Levis that much. I think that's the opposite. Sam has been a Levis guy
big Levis guy.
You've been the biggest Levis guy on the A to Z airwaves.
That is true.
He was drafted.
Kadaro
Bobo is not a name that I've recognized to watch that much or comment that much. So, but yeah, Sam's been the biggest Levis proponent that we put on our platform, and it's between me, Zach, Jack, Buck. I don't know. That's and then you're leading the Levis train of the group of us.
Yeah, I just think we have to be able to see reality in the idea that there were some real concerning things with Will Levis, and my belief is that he's going to go to have a really strong season and really be the franchise guy. I've been firm on that. But am I ready to put him over quarterbacks that have proven it? At this moment in time, I think it's a little bit foolish to, especially when you're talking about guys like some of the chat who's in hey, Levis over Jared Goff, Levis over Josh Allen, Levis over this, CJ Stroud. That's madness to me. We're still trying to figure out for sure if this is the guy. And so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not taking Levis over Lawrence, and the last quarterback on the list is I'm not taking Levis over Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think you can't take Levis over Joe Burrow.
Yes, Joe Burrow is one of the guys who could have arguments for the second best quarterback in the NFL. I'm not necessarily making that argument because he's not staying healthy, but I'm not going to poo-poo the argument because I think it's between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow for the second best quarterback in the NFL at this point. And that is a big gap between Will Levis. So I think let's kind of recap now, because we don't even need to waste airspace on the Joe Burrow conversation. Let's start at the beginning. We both, all of us, and including the chat, Sam and I, are taking Levis over Caleb Williams in week 1, right? That's the situation. So that's a quarterback advantage for the Titans. Even though I picked Levis over Rodgers, I lost out the consensus. So 1 advantage over those 4 games right there. In the next slide, we've got Anthony Richardson and Drake May. We've all picked Levis over those 2 quarterbacks. So now that is 3 games on this slide that the Titans have a quarterback advantage if Richardson's healthy for all and Levis too. So that's 4 games throughout the season. Now we go to the third slide. The consensus was Levis over JJ McCarthy. And so now that is 5 games that the Titans have the consensus quarterback advantage. And then the last slide, we all went Levis over Jaden Daniels. That makes 6 games out of 17 that the Titans have the quarterback advantage, according to us as a collective showroom. So where did you have that in your article, Sam, from last week?
My article, I finished with 6 games of 17 where the Titans had the advantage at quarterback, which I also noted made sense given the 5.5, win-loss total.
Yeah.
So no, 6-11 is not the, that doesn't mean you win 6 games just because you have an advantage at quarterback in 6 games. Doesn't mean you lose 11 games just because you have maybe not the quarterback advantage in 11 games. But I think going into games right now, and as we mentioned, it's very much subject to change, like at a halfway point or even as early as the bye, Austin. I think like you could revisit this conversation and have a very different answer. Like after you see 4 games of Will Levis against Chicago, Green Bay, New York, and Miami, one of those games being in prime time, 2 of those games being on the road, and have different thoughts or feelings about Will Levis. And if he looks like the Will Levis of last year, you probably stay with a lot of your advantage to other dudes. But, you know, how much does he elevate? I think that'll be the story of the season and will be really a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, and so Carpet King says the Titans won 6 games last season with a new team. No way you win less than that. Again, 6 games you have the quarterback advantage. But let's just go through last season's wins. Is Ryan Tannehill a better quarterback than Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow? No. But the Titans won those games. Is Ryan Tannehill better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence? No, but they won that game. We all took Tua over Levis in this show, and boom, there you go again. You've got another game the Titans won without having the quarterback advantage. So that kind of shows you the opportunity that the Titans can have. You know, I believe this next statement. If the Titans are going to make the playoffs, they probably need to win 5 out of these 6 games, if not all 6.
I would definitely agree with that. I think these are your quote unquote easy ones on the schedule. These are the ones that you have to be able to win in order to, hey, split the hard ones, make the playoffs. And, you know, that's like the realistic path of getting in. Yeah, ultimately it just comes down to, and we didn't get into this, but I did see this argument from chat to put down other QBs and just this idea of, hasn't proven it yet. Like CJ Stroud has to prove it. He might have a sophomore slump. We haven't seen it yet. But realistically, Will Levis has not played that much football either. And, you know, especially not at the NFL level. And we need to see it from Will Levis and see Will Levis prove it before we can realistically. And again, this is not necessarily projecting the future. And that's a completely different conversation. Would you rather have Will Levis or Caleb Williams long term? I'm taking Caleb Williams. But if you're asking me, would I rather have Will Levis or Trevor Lawrence long term? I might take Will Levis in that one. And that shifts the argument. You're asking about this season, these specific games, and which one, you know, you give your guy to. And we haven't seen it enough yet to feel confident about it.
Yep, totally agree. All right, A to Z Sports here live on this Tuesday. Good conversation that we've been wanting to have for a week or so on the show. Finally got to it, which leads us to throwing shade. So if you've got shade you want to throw, if you got something to get off your chest, go ahead and get ready to throw that shade. We'll read your shade from the chat, and I've got my shade that I started off the show with. So throwing shade here on this Tuesday. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at Wilson County Hyundai for that next ride. Save some money right there. Throwing shade to wrap up this Tuesday show like we always do. So if you've got shade, bring it. I will start us off, Sam. My shade is on the way we talk about as a society rescheduling things. And the fact we had this topic over a week ago. In my opinion, we kept pushing this topic back. Some people would say that we've moved it forward. Like if something, so I know I'm not saying you agree with this, but like if we had a 2:00 meeting today, Sam, if we have a 2:00 meeting today and you want to move it to 2:30, would you be moving it forward or back?
Yeah, I'm pushing it back 30 minutes.
Right. I agree with you. I agree.
But
there are people there are people that think moving that meeting from 2:00 to 2:30 is pushing it forward.
No, it's not.
I agree, but that is my shade because it drives me insane because I have to word questions about moving meetings in a way that does not get into that discussion.
Can we Can somebody in the chat like maybe confirm that they've ever heard that? I've never heard that.
You've never heard this?
Maybe I have. I've heard like move it forward, but I always assume move it forward meant make it sooner. Like if you're like, hey, we're gonna move our meeting up 30 minutes, I'd say, all right, it's at 1:30.
I would say you'd move it up. I would never use the word.
But I'm saying if we had a 2:00 and you said let's move it up 30 minutes, that means it's 1:30. Push it back 30 minutes means it's 2:30.
But it's not about up or back. It's about forward. It's the word.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. And so like I've had.
You said let's move it forward 30 minutes.
I've had a situation yesterday that somebody asked me, "Hey, can we move that forward to 2:15?" And I was like, "That's
backwards."
I agree.
Back. Yeah. No, that's good shade because that would drive me nuts if I.
It does drive me nuts.
Okay, my shade is on EA Sports and on college football 25, 24. I don't know which
25.
one it is. 25? Yeah, it makes sense. College football 25 and EA Sports get my shade because they made the most highly anticipated video game maybe ever.
Potentially.
And they made it not available on Xbox One unless you have the next generation console, which I think is classist and upsetting to me.
Classist.
Hey, not everybody has the next gen, man.
Elitist?
Elitist, classist, whatever you want to call it. I'm throwing all the words.
Is classist the term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But whatever class you're in. Yeah, that was just crazy. Like, why make the game only available for the next gen console? It's a money grab to make people have to buy the next gen console. Yeah. But I just think shade on them. That pissed me off because I was very excited for the game. And I think found out 3 days before the game came out that I was not going to be able to play the game unless I bought the new console. Now, some people might say, well, just buy the new console. But I don't play video games enough. I play like one video game. Like if I had an NCAA, I would run that back for hours and hours and hours, and that would be the game that I play. It's not worth buying a whole new console to play one game, especially because I know that don't want to spend hours and hours and hours on video games. Like I do enjoy not having that as part of my routine.
Yeah.
And I need to try and avoid that. So I want to play the game really bad, but I can't. And yeah, that's annoying.
And so a couple comments. Bearded Kunu says, bro, all games are going that way now. Also, the old gen couldn't handle the new graphics and the processing.
But the graphics don't look like, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't look new. Yeah, it looks like Madden, but like Madden works fine. The new Maddens work fine on my Xbox.
Rashid says it's about cross-play. So like you could play with other people.
But I can cross-play on my Xbox. I have the Xbox
One. I am as ignorant as I have ever been when it comes to video games. I have no idea. Like the last console I had was Xbox 360. So it's
I have an Xbox One and I still play. Like if I went on Fortnite, I can still play with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC players. Like that crossplay exists on this one. So I don't know why it has to be on the next gen console. I'm irritated by it. That's my shade.
And Kindle says it's a much heavier game on processing. Maybe it's the specific game itself. I don't know. And so look, I find it interesting. Look, I've always said that this game coming back is the only thing that would get me to play video games again in my life. It's back, and I don't have any plans to start anytime soon. It's just like I super under expected the amount of people my age or older that have video game consoles and that have time for this. Like the Instagrams posts and stories and tweets of people that I know yesterday firing up the game and just showing me the intro screen and just me being like,
it's fun. It is so fun. And I'm glad to hear Kendall says it's the best football game in years. He did follow it up. And this is ultimately my point, saying they could have figured it out though. And it's still BS.
But guess what? They want more money. They want you to go.
Yeah. They want me to buy the console, and that's fine. Yeah, I agree with you. I've never the things that get me to play video games traditionally are fun sports games like this, like an awesome football game would get me on it because I think it's fun. Just, hey, let the guys have fun. But then also like anything where I can get on with people that I know, like for a while when Warzone was big, when Fortnite was big, like those were fun because it was like, hey, you can talk to friends and hop on there and like play a game and have a good time. Don't do it a ton anymore. Kind of enjoy not doing it, but also wouldn't hate playing NCAA. I just want to turn Northern Illinois into a Big Ten powerhouse.
Yeah, maybe one day, maybe one of these days. I don't know. We'll see. But look, I do love the nostalgia. I hope everybody that does play has a ton of fun and can go back in their lives 15 plus years or whenever your peak NCAA college football playing experience was and feel like you're right there in that bonus room of your buddy or wherever you were at back in the day and relive that because that sounds awesome. It just sounds great.
Yeah. Bearded says, fill 32-man dynasty with your friends. I don't have 32 friends to do that with. But
no, me either.
I would love to, but 32 friends would not be like ready to join up my my thing. And this is ultimately the thing that we talked about too. Kendall says he only has time to play after 11 p.m., which I think a lot of people are that way. The problem is you start playing at like 10, 11 p.m. and then you look up and you go, oh, it's 3 a.m. Ooh, that, sorry, I got so into my recruiting of this 4-star quarterback that I looked up and it was 3 a.m. And
yeah, because apparently
that's not good for anybody.
Apparently in recruiting, like now you like DM players and stuff like that, because look, it's modernized.
It's real. That is cool. And that makes me want to play it even more of
Agree. Kadaro says, so Austin, you're saying you're too old for video games. I'm not too old. My current lifestyle is not conducive to me playing video games. That's my answer. It's lifestyle, people. It's lifestyle. That's how it is. It's just other things rank way higher in the priorities. So
I just go through waves. Like I will go, like Scott says, he only plays sports games, Madden, NBA, MLB The Show. That's how I am. I have Madden and MLB The Show are really the two that I play a lot. And like I won't touch it for months. And then I'll have a week or 2 weeks where it's all I do in my free time is like I'll start it one day, be like, I'm bored, I'll fire this up. And then it's got me hooked. I started a new game mode and I'm just all in on that thing. And then I forget about it and it's away for months. And then it's like, oh, I'm back in and I can't put it away. That's kind of my cycle with video games.
Yep. Same thing. All right. That'll do it for us on this Tuesday. Great show talking to the Titans quarterback. Opposing quarterbacks on the schedule. We got Will Levis with the advantage over 5 quarterbacks in 6 games to this point. Training camp a week away. Sam and Jack will be back tomorrow morning here on the show, and I'll catch you guys back again on Thursday. Appreciate it as always. Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime. He'll catch you then. Thanks again. Talk to you guys later on. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you later.